Let's jump into this first story from Timcast.com. Marco Rubio canvasser reportedly attacked, told Republicans not allowed in the neighborhood. He was also campaigning for DeSantis as well. I believe he was wearing a Rubio hat and a DeSantis shirt. Or I'm sorry, he was wearing a DeSantis hat and a Rubio shirt. The campaign volunteer, who was wearing apparel supportive of the Florida senator and the Florida governor DeSantis, reportedly suffered internal bleeding and will require facial reconstructive surgery. Rubio reported on Monday. Hialeah Mayor Esteban Steve Bovo said the police department has reportedly made an arrest, though did not provide further details, citing a lack of information, the Miami Herald reported. So apparently, Rubio is saying it was 4 guys. Now, this is where it gets fun. Because Charlie Crist has come out himself, and I can respect this. This is the Democrat running for governor saying there's no place for violence in politics. Senator Rubio, your canvasser is in our prayers, and we look forward to those responsible being brought to justice. We have Val Deming saying, I have zero tolerance for any violence against any person for any reason. Those responsible for attacking a canvasser last night should be arrested and prosecuted to the fullest extent of the law. Now, I absolutely can respect those calling this out. The Democrats calling this out, the violence. But here we go. From the Miami New Times, Rubio supporter attacked while canvassing is identified as apparent white supremacist past. Okay. Now, the first thing is a bunch of leftists pointed this out. Antifa came out and said he deserved it. They were tweeting this, saying that, oh, it turns out he was a white supremacist, therefore he deserves it. I think he's Cuban and he's not white, so I don't know if white supremacist makes sense. You know, you can call him something else, I guess, but if you want to call him fascist. So this guy gets mercilessly beaten, and the left immediately finds a justification for why. I can only assume then they're probably the ones who beat him, and this was their justification. But the first thing I'm going to say, yeah, I don't like his opinions, if that's the case. You know, I've seen some screenshots of things he may have posted. They're accusing him of posting. Really, really awful stuff. Some of the worst of the worst. Does not justify mercilessly beating someone to the point where they need surgery and they're internally bleeding. And then I want to point out, if the Democrats want to keep playing games like this, we could now say governor candidate Charlie Crist defended white supremacists today. That's the game they play in the media. So if they want to come out and attack this guy who was just beaten and try and make it seem like there's justification for it, then we can point out, oh, Democrats are defending white supremacists, right? The simple thing is no violence, condemn it all. The dude can say bad things. I don't think it's relevant to why he was brutally beaten right now. This is the kind of stuff we have to call for de-escalation on.
I just think it's crazy that they're always, the right is the real threat to America or democracy or anything. But if we look at these attacks over and over again, it's always conservatives that are getting run over by cars or beaten to a bloody pulp, or Rand Paul's getting attacked by his neighbor. It's not them that are getting brutalized all the time. It's our side that's getting brutalized all the time. There's
a video going viral right now of, well, I will point out, just for the sake of, I can hear all the leftists screaming, Charlottesville, when, you know, James Fields, I think, was it, he ran the car.
I have my own theory on that, but that's fine. Like, if you actually watch the footage, but
I mean, you know, there's a lot to say. Antifa does tend to be the one, and BLM and these left extremists going around causing all the violence. And there's a video right now that I retweeted, where it's like a guy and his girlfriend, I'm assuming, they're walking and Antifa is beating them. And then even an Antifa medic grabs the woman and she's screaming. And I'm like, that's an important thing to highlight for people, is that the Antifa people will put red crosses on their arms for 2 reasons. It's a disguise. So they can go and beat people and go, I'm just a medic. And then and then also as propaganda. When the police arrest them, then they post photos saying, the police are arresting medics, so why are they doing it? And it's because they're psychotic extremist terrorists who are beating people.
I'm looking at the article that you mentioned here. I'm trying to find out the exact sources of what they're using here. But they're also reporting that the police report is not mentioning that there was a political dispute, nor does it look or indicate that there was a specific targeting of this specific individual. So what's really going on here? Are they just trying to justify it? Was there any reason? Is there someone really going through Twitter, finding someone on the street that's a niche person saying, hey, you did this in a couple years ago? I highly doubt that.
No. Exactly no one's saying that.
I know.
What they're saying is, this guy was canvassing. Some people saw his shirt and his hat, beat him up, and then when the news broke from Rubio that this guy was brutally beaten and told you're not supposed to be here, Antifa immediately rushed out to dig up the guy's past. Now, here's the other issue. I don't know that's even true, because the photos they posted do not look like this guy. unless he dropped 50 pounds.
Yeah, he looks like a Spanish guy too, which
Right.
doesn't really add up to a good white supremacist there in the story that they have there. So again, a lot of the things don't make sense here. We don't know exactly what happened. We weren't there. There's no video of the incident, but we have to understand that our society is becoming more violent. When we look at crimes, especially in major cities, there is an epidemic happening here, and whether it's because of the destruction of our mental health or just our political class becoming more hyperbolic by the day, it was just a few weeks ago where Biden stood behind a huge podium with the red lights behind him declaring that MAGA people are the true danger to this country. And when you have such sensationalistic, hyperbolic language, you're going to have people taking action on that language, which is pretty dangerous for everyone involved in the political sphere.
Another interesting point, though, to bring up is that they can always dig into the past of Republicans too, but like it didn't matter about George Floyd's past, right? Like
Right.
he can hold guns to pregnant women, and that's fine.
Did he point a gun like at her belly?
Yeah,
I don't know. Is that what he did?
yeah, and robbed her.
I read that he pointed the gun at her belly and said, "Do you want your baby to live or die?"
Right. He's fine. We can.
But I've also read that
classify him
story
as
was
safe.
completely fabricated, so I don't know what
See?
to think. And it's really irrelevant. We know that he had a criminal record.
That's
And
my
we know
point,
that he
though.
was on
Like,
drugs when he died.
We don't even know if what they're saying about this guy is true. I didn't read any of like the tweets that it says, but even if it were, it didn't seem to matter for their people with their shady past, right? And so it doesn't justify violence under any stretch of the imagination.
Yeah, tell you something funny. You know, I went to this market the other day, and it was really, really great. It was in Potomac, Virginia, I think is the name of the city. This beautiful place. Wow, everyone there is very wealthy. The mall at Tyson's, I could not believe it was like being in the capital city of the Hunger Games. The bathroom had like a lounge section in it, it was weird, like a half moon chair, and there's like weird like marble lighting. Wow. And I went to this market, and they had some Ruth Bader Ginsburg chocolates, and it said Notorious RBG, and you know I said that is a perfect gift for Luke, and so I bought it. And I brought it back to Luke. And the reason I bring it up is that one of the chocolates, it said something like "fight for what you believe in" with the red salute on it, the communist fist. And I just think it's funny. Like, I know what the red salute is and means and why, what the symbol is supposed to be, but you see it as a mainstream icon. And this one, I know the left is going to love this one. They're going to start vomiting on themselves, screaming. When I see the red salute, it may as well be a swastika.
Right.
There were two extremist ideologies in Europe at the turn of the 19th century. They believed almost the same things in terms of authoritarianism. They just differed on cultural things. The communists wanted to purge the culture. The Nazis wanted to reinforce traditional culture. But they both loved the symbol of the weak coming together to form the strong. With the fascists, they had the fasces, the bundle of sticks with the blade in it, strapped together because each individual stick is weak, but together it makes a weapon. And the red salute is the outward-facing fist, where each individual finger is weak, but together it's strong. That's why they're showing you the fingers when they do it. So when I go into a store and it's a bunch of like regular old people being like, "We're normal people who don't like extremism. Here's our hate symbol. You know, here's a chocolate with a symbol of 100 million dead." And it's normal to people, just completely normal.
Yeah, I was like, thank you, Tim, for the genocide of my people on a chocolate. Since, of course, you know, I'm Polish. I was born and raised in Poland, and that represents, you know, a lot of, you know, just horrible things that happened to my people. All the innocent people that were, of course, tortured, that were murdered because they didn't believe in the right political ideas that, of course, the communists wanted you to believe in. And I think there's a reason why there's so much genocide and so much communism that always coalesces together throughout human history, and that's something that is not really taught in history class or in public schools, but there's a big correlation there, and it's not an accident.
But the point that you're making to where it's like all these rich people and whatever, I think it was just James Klug. He was doing a like, what is fascism or is America fascist type of video. And there's all these like rich people on the beach and he's pushing them against like about what is fascism. They have no idea what it even means. They can't define it.
Right.
So they're going around calling like all Americans, or at least half the population, fascist. They don't even know what it means.
Well, here's a funny thing. I watched this YouTube video. So I went to Gettysburg this weekend too. And then, you know, it's like an hour and 40 minutes or whatever from here, hour and a half. And then started watching a documentary series. It was like 4 hours long. And then in between that, YouTube recommended this "What Would Happen" a video from a YouTuber. I forget his name, so I apologize for this guy. But it was like, who would win a civil war? And it was a really great video. he got a lot of things wrong.
Oh, you're talking about What If All History?
Yeah, that guy.
His
That
name's
guy.
Red Yard. He's been asked on the show a couple times here. People have been asking in the chat.
Oh,
but,
okay.
yeah,
I
good
watched
dude.
his video. It was really, really interesting.
Yeah.
And I forgot exactly what I was trying to say about it. What were you just mentioning?
Gettysburg and
Civil War, who would win in a Civil War?
No. What were you saying?
About the rich people not knowing what fascism is and
Oh, right. I'm sorry. The point he made is that prior to the past 50 years, every political faction was authoritarian right. The idea that there is an authoritarian left is new. The idea there's a libertarian left is extremely new. And so he was making this point where he's like, if you were to take all the political factions from like the previous conflicts throughout the past 100 years and bring them to today, they would all be authoritarian right. Like even the communists were very pro-masculinity and like working class. They just wanted to purge the traditions, and the fascists wanted to preserve the traditions.
Right.
But they were all like lunatic, homicidal maniacs. And the funny thing I think about it is it's just like really easy to point out, as like we know the Nazis were some of the worst in our history, like just the horrifying things they did, and the communists did what 12-fold more, substantially more than that, right?
Right. Yeah.
Oh yeah, like
Mao
50
too.
times.
Yep.
The communists all together had like 50 times more murder and genocide.
Right, but it's always the Nazis.
But you
that did
can
all the-
buy the red salute in your local town market on a chocolate supporting your Supreme Court, your favorite Supreme Court justice.
Didn't Obama have like a Christmas ball with Mao on it in the White House?
I'm not sure about that.
I don't know.
We got to look that one up.
Look that up. I'm just saying. I feel like that was a thing.
And then
this
when
was a long time ago.
I remember when I pointed out some leftists did the red salute. I mean, they all do it. They walk around, they raise the fist. They don't understand that they're raising the fist is literally. I think it was like Ethan Klein or somebody who was like, Tim's criticizing the universal symbol of resistance, and I'm like, that's not what it is. Like, yo, read a history book, bro. It's the red salute. The Chinese Communist Party. When you're joining it, you have to give the red salute while you recite the pledge to the Chinese Communist Party. It's like imagine if you could like buy a chocolate with the Roman salute on it. It's just bonkers that that's acceptable in this country. We're a country of like freedom-loving, libertarian, individualist types. That's what the country is founded on. Yet authoritarian, murderous, genocidal communism has their symbols everywhere.
And I think you were right. Fox News has an article from 2015 that's titled "White House Christmas Decor Featuring Mao Zedong Comes Under Fire."
Correct, yeah.
And it talks about how Mao Zedong was hanging out with a drag queen in the depiction there. It's again an old article, but
it was like a really long time ago, but that's okay in the White House.
It's kind of crazy to see so many genociders just publicly loved and adored, especially Che Guevara. When you look at his history, especially the way he treated people in the LGBTQ community, especially how he treated people of color, the history on that, when you look at it, is very eye-opening to say the least.
What do we think of the Trudeau?
Mention of his love of communism.
No, like the comparison that what's his face is his father.
Oh.
Like it's like this.
I mean, the
conspiracy
pictures are
theory.
funny.
The pictures are funny.
Yeah, I mean, and it's like there's weird history that aligns this,
I
like
know. I like my conspiracy
Didn't
theories.
his
so-
mother meet him?
I think that's what it was.
Yeah, like numerous times.
I think it's funny because like I was reading a Snopes thing and it's like Trudeau's mother did meet with Castro,
Yeah.
and it was around the time, like it was like in a similar time frame to when he may have been born or whatever. But I think they're saying it was like a couple of years before anyway.
They look quite a bit alike.
Yeah, he doesn't look like his father. So
He doesn't look like
he
his father,
doesn't.
that's for sure.
Yeah.
No.
Yeah. So
He's clearly fond of the ideology, so
maybe Fidel
he's paying
Castro was a
homage.
milkman in Canada.
Yeah, like-
you know.
Maybe he's just trying to grab onto his
It's just-
father's legacy. I don't know.
It's the funniest things about these things where it's like, well, it is true that Trudeau does look like him and he doesn't look like his father, and his mother did meet Castro and did travel down there. It's debunked. It's not. And you're like, well, what do you mean? Like, do you have any evidence? Is like you're giving, like, this is the thing. Snopes is giving us reason to believe it's actually true. Not necessarily Snopes, but these other, a bunch of fact checks. It's like all of these points you're making about coincidence and happenstance are evidence in the positive, and then you just come out right and say, but it doesn't actually make sense, therefore it's debunked. We see that so often with fact checks in the media.
Well,
I
yeah,
don't
they
even
just
listen to them anymore.
pick and choose whatever they want to, of course, work for their larger agenda. I did hear that the years don't add up, and that the year that the photos that are circulating don't add up to when he was born. There's other people
What
arguing.
if it was IVF?
Yeah, I don't know.
How advanced was that at the time?
I don't know if they had that
the history.
during that
How old
specific
is Trudeau?
time.
He's not that
Special,
old.
But there's other
special
people-
package
Yeah.
on dry ice delivered to
Yeah.
the Trudeau household.
But here's the thing, like even if
Special
you,
delivery.
it doesn't match up for that time that she met him. Like there's plenty of people that still see people without anybody knowing.
Yeah,
as well.
the other
Like,
people are arguing that there was specific meetings that happened between them. A
whirlwind
that were not
romance.
documented, or
I mean,
yeah.
that
Trudeau's mom
happened.
was like-
Pre-internet, of course.
Fidel, I can't do this. My husband will find out.
This needs to be made into a soap opera.
I like to
Yeah,
believe
that
that,
would be
it's
great,
true. I'm
actually.
just gonna keep trying to believe that it's true.
The Generalissimo. No, my son. He's not my son. Thanks for checking out this segment from the Timcast IRL podcast. But if you want to check out the full show live, tune in Monday through Friday at 8 p.m. And if you want more special access content, head over to timcast.com and become a member. Your membership helps sustain this company, keep our journalists employed, makes this show happen, and you will get access to exclusive members-only segments of the Timcast IRL podcast, and there's a massive library to check out. So again, go to timcast.com or tune in Monday through Friday at 8 p.m., and we'll see you all there.